Bell Island is a fascinating corner of my country that I knew nothing about until about 3 years ago. And it's an important part of Canada's history and even our sovereignty. Beyond that, it's unbelievably beautiful. There's remarkable shipwrecks that are not just historic significant war graves, but they are artificial reefs that are so beautiful. And then there's the mine. I mean, it's the underwater explorer's dream to have a mine, to have shipwrecks that are colorful, and whales and icebergs. And I mean, what else could you ask for? My name is Jill Heinerth, and I'm the Explorer in Residence for the Royal Canadian Geographic Society. The shipwrecks were sunk in the fall of 1942 on 2 separate attacks by U-boats, thinking that it would be a good idea to disrupt the flow of the high-grade iron ore that was coming out of the Bell Island mine. And so they specifically targeted these ore carriers in 2 separate occasions, put 2 on the bottom each time. So it was a pretty good tactical move, but it shocked the heck out of the Bell Islanders and Canadians, North Americans. I mean, to have a direct attack on our shores was unprecedented. There's all kinds of artifacts still on these wrecks, from the big stuff like guns with brass plates on them to portholes, phonograph records, you know, the personal remains left behind, and unbelievably beautiful marine life growing all over everything. The Saguenay is a pretty interesting wreck because as it started to sink, it broke in half. And so as the 2 halves kind of snapped upward, this huge anchor from one end of the boat gets launched and actually lands on the deck on the other end of the boat. I mean, these things are huge. They're, I don't know, 6-7 feet high. And to imagine throwing that piece of, iron as far as it went and landing, it's amazing. And it's a great spot for a picture. The PLM is probably one of the first wrecks that you'll see when you come here because it's the shallowest. People suspected that there was some spying associated with the sinking. The captain of the PLM sold his grand piano from the boat to a Bell Islander like the night before the sinking. But the PLM also has a pretty significant torpedo hole. If you're down on the seafloor and you look up at this entrance wound from the torpedo, it's amazing. And then you can see on the other side of the boat where it bursts out and bends the metal outward. And it's a pretty cool spot to see. On the wreck of the Rose Castle, you can visit the Marconi room and just poke your head in the door and see all the bells and knobs and whistles and everything else that was a part of that intact as it was when it sunk. And when I stick my head in that door, I imagine there was probably a guy in there on the radio yelling for help. What a powerful thing to see. On another wreck, there's a radio sitting right on top of the deck, and some, I think, are old batteries and electrical panels from that Marconi room. For me, one of the most profound diving experiences I had here was diving last year on one of the wrecks, and I was swimming with my buddy up to this deck gun on the Rose Castle, and it's beautiful. That's a strange thing to say about a big piece of hardware for killing people, but my dive buddy was German, and there we were enjoying the sight of these incredible anemones, these pinkish anemones like exploding at the end of the gun barrel. And I was thinking to myself, wow, in 1942, we would have been on opposite sides of this gun, yet here we are together enjoying this wreck. How our world has changed and how the marine environment has transformed this very sad thing into something that's beautiful again. These wrecks are enormous. There's no way you can possibly, dive the entire wreck on a dive and say, oh, done it, what's next? It leaves you wanting to go back again and again and again to see the rest of the wreck. Like, oh, let's do the bow today, let's do the stern today, or let's just do the superstructure, or let's go inside and have a look around at some of the artifacts. I've been coming here for 3 years and I feel like I've only barely scratched the surface. There's so much to see and do on each individual one. They're enormous. The Bell Island mine ceased the end of its operations 50 years ago. Literally, people went home for the Christmas holidays, and the operators of the mine decided it's getting too expensive to continue to mine this ore from these great depths, some 1,800 feet deep inside the mine. And they turned off the dewatering pumps, and over the course of a couple days, the mine filled back up with water. And it was a huge economic shock to the community. And you wonder what the future of Bell Island is. Well, the future of Bell Island is tourism. It's embracing the natural beauty that they have around them, celebrating these shipwrecks and the mine as, a place of national historic significance. The mine is now going to be open to cave divers who are qualified to explore its depths. Because there was no warning in terms of flooding the mine, it's full of artifacts. So it's industrial archaeology. You can follow the pipes and the pumps and the personal artifacts of the miners, and you can see crosses on the wall where men died at work. 106 men died in the Bell Island mines. It's an incredible asset beyond the natural beauty of this place. There's also some old mine entrances at a place called the Grebe's Nest. It's a pretty cool little kind of cave exploration that you can do there, because there's multiple openings and skylights and tunnels. And within those tunnels, you'll see tunnels that are completely collapsed, which kind of gives you the sobering reminder that this activity is a little bit dangerous. And sometimes from beneath these collapses, you'll see the rail tracks of the ore carts and other artifacts like sticking out from the rock piles. This year on my visits to Newfoundland, I've been flying the flag of the Royal Canadian Geographic Society. This has been deemed their expedition of the year, which is pretty exciting. When I speak with people at the Royal Canadian, they're very excited because they feel like often Newfoundland is left out of, Canada's history and geography. And Newfoundland is a recent addition to Canada. You come here a stranger and you leave as family. All the people in Newfoundland are like people you've never met before, and they will become family. It's a special place.